All right, so it's been a while since I did a deep dive or a video on the main channel here. There is a new sister channel, for those who don't know about it, JT's Horror Discussions, Bite-Size Edition, where I've been uploading and will continue to be uploading short reviews and shorts, basically any review that's under 10 minutes, because I feel like it's not worth putting on the main channel if it's a 5-minute review. I'll put a little thing up here. Go subscribe to that. I was trying to think for the last 2 weeks what movie I wanted to do next, what deep dive. And every time I thought of a movie, I would get excited about it. And then after a day, I would say, I don't feel like watching that or doing that one. So I was browsing the other night and I came across Oculus by Mike Flanagan from 2013. It is now on Tubi, which I don't remember seeing it on here often. So as soon as I saw it, I said, that's the movie. And here we are. So Oculus, this movie was based off of a short that Mike Flanagan did early in his career called Oculus Chapter 3, which surprisingly I never checked out. But then they wanted to make a feature film out of it, and he ended up coming up with the idea of telling the story with 2 different timelines. We have the present day events with Kaylie and Tim when they return to their family home to take on this evil mirror. And then we have the past when they were kids, and we see how their parents both lost their mind and got consumed by the evil in this antique mirror, the Lasser glass.
A gorgeous antique mirror recovered from the Levesque estate. The Lasser glass. This is the original glass and the original frame. The mirror is in remarkable condition, save for a small hairline fracture down in the lower right-hand corner. The frame is carved out of one piece of Bavarian black cedar.
I've seen this movie a lot of times over the years, and to this day, it's still my favorite Mike Flanagan movie. I think he's one of the best directors of his generation, of the last 15 years or so, for sure. And he's one of the best at adapting Stephen King stories for film or TV. Now, this movie was his second film after his debut, Absentia, which I also enjoyed when it came out. But I didn't love it or anything like that. I grew appreciation for Absentia over the years. But this movie, when I first saw it, and I saw this in theaters, I was blown away. And this is something I'll get to later at the end of this when we reach the ending of the movie. But when I saw how the timelines converge at the end of this film, I said to myself, this is the man who should direct it, a new adaptation, because it is my favorite novel of all time. And I really do love chapters 1 and 2 and what they did with it, pun intended. But I still feel like they haven't nailed the novel. And I don't mean scenes that are left out, because there are scenes that absolutely should be left out and have been in both adaptations, thankfully. I more so mean how the last 150 pages have both timelines converging, and every chapter starts getting shorter and shorter, from flashing between 1958, when the losers are kids fighting against Pennywise in their climax, and then as adults. And it starts flipping between the past and the present so fast and so often that you end up getting chapters that are a sentence or two long, or it's like a line by one of the characters spoken as a kid, and the next chapter finishes the sentence as an adult. And it's really, really well done. And it's something that always sucked me in to the ending of the story, despite it being ridiculous with the space turtle and all that shit. But the way King wrote it, I really love that. And it's something that I feel is missing from every adaptation, both that we've gotten. And I saw this movie and I said, this would be the guy who could pull it off. By the end of this film, And I saw it going back and forth between the past and the present like that. I said, this is the man. And I'm very surprised that he didn't get the job to do it. But this is a fantastic movie. It's a favorite of mine from the decade, from the 2010s. So let's talk Oculus. Before we jump into the movie, it's good to be back here doing this deep dive stuff. If you haven't seen it, brief synopsis. We have Kaylie and Tim Russell, who, as kids, their parents end up getting this antique mirror and bringing it into the father's office. And they start seeing weird things happening in the house. Both parents start acting very, very weird and almost possessed in a way. The kids are obviously traumatized going through all these events. And they start to realize that it's the mirror that's exerting its influence on their parents. The plants start dying all over the house. Their dog disappears, which Kaylie later on gives her theory on the mirror and says that it eats dogs. So we got that in here too. They start seeing a woman in Alan, that's the father's name, in his office. And actually, she's played by Kate Siegel, Flanagan's wife, and basically collaborates with her with everything nowadays. I didn't know that originally when this movie came out, that was Kate Siegel playing the ghost woman. So all this weird stuff is happening, and Tim ends up having to tragically shoot and kill his own father. He ends up being taken away to a mental institution, and Kaylie ends up living her life, on her own. And she's been obsessed with trying to, pretty much prove the existence of the supernatural elements of this mirror, and also exonerate her father's name, that her father wasn't a maniac killer who lost his mind and killed their mother. That was the official story. So she wants to debunk all of that, clear her father's name, and prove this mirror has supernatural elements to it. Tim ends up getting out of the institution when he's like 18, something like that. And he ends up getting drawn back in to Kaylie's world, where she works for like an auction company, and she ends up being able to finagle her way to get her hands on the mirror. And she only has like a day or something like that before the person who bought it needs to receive it. So she drags Tim over to the family house, and they try to destroy the mirror once and for all. It's one head trip of a movie, I'll say that. Because of the two timelines, and especially later how it jumps between both of them, it is so confusing the first time you watch this movie, but it has such a surreal feel to it. It feels like a nightmare, and it reflects kind of what they're going through, because they're hallucinating that they're back in the past later on at the end of the film, in the climax, and you can't tell if it's the present or the past, so they're all mentally fucked up, and the movie basically presents itself to you in that same way, so that you feel split and fucked up in the head while you're trying to put all the pieces together. It's very, very well done. So if you haven't checked it out, don't watch this. Go check it out first. So we open up with Tim having a dream of that night when they were kids and him shooting his dad. Except this time, his dream is different.
They're fired. But as many times as I've had this dream, it's never been me before, holding the gun.
I know.
Which leads his doctor to believe that he's accepted reality and that no supernatural events happened that night. His dad basically was cheating on his mother and having an affair. His dad started getting very isolated. He abused the mother, killed her, and then he was forced to kill his father. And that's the story that's been implanted in his mind from being locked away in an institution for all these years. Kaylie, on the other hand, like I said, works for some auction or whatever, and she's been planning this her entire life since the events of that night to prove the existence of supernatural events with this mirror. And I gotta say, with that scene with the auction where they show the laser glass, which is the name, good memory there, it's a gorgeous mirror. I'd get that mirror, even if it did have all that shit attached to it, and I knew something would happen eventually. I still might have to get that hanging on a wall for a day or two. The black cedar it's made of, are you kidding? It's gorgeous. I don't know what it is, but every time I see Karen Gillan, who does such a great job in this, the brother, what's the actor's name? Thwaites? Something Thwaites. I only remember that because of the stupid Skinnamarink-a-Doo Electric Boogaloo trailer that I did, the sequel to the great Skinnamarink. Brendan, that's his name, Brendan Thwaites. He doesn't do a bad job, but he's not on the same level as Karen Gillan, Rory Cochrane. I forget the actress who plays the mom, but she's been in a lot of stuff. I've seen her before, and she does a very good job too. Everyone gives a good performance. I would say that Thwaites is probably the weakest link here. But I love that shot, and I don't know why, of Kaylie walking into the auction room and her hair is going back and forth, her ponytail like that. I don't know why. Every time I watch it, it gives me a little chuckle. So after Kaylie picks up Tim from the institution, she ends up telling him her plan to destroy the mirror and how she's getting her hands on it, which raises some questions. The chance that she was able to get her hands on this mirror and that it was sold right at the perfect moment, the day that her brother's released from the institution, and they only have this small time frame to try to, record evidence and destroy it before they have to get it to the buyer and everything. I don't know. It's so convenient. There's a few things that are a little ridiculous throughout this, but I really love this film so much that I don't really have any negatives. I don't really have any negatives about this movie. I have no gripes with it. I can throw this film on anytime, anywhere, and have a blast. And also, Kaylie is dating this guy. They're not married, right? I don't think so. They're dating. But then we go back in time, 11 years, I think it is, and we see the family moving into the house. And like I said, Rory Cochrane, I always enjoy seeing him. It's been a long time since Dazed and Confused. Love that movie. Love everything I've ever seen him in. I really enjoy him in A Scanner Darkly. I really like the scene when Kaylie goes to check the mirror out for the first time, and she pulls, the tarp off of it. And you see in the reflection the tarps over the statues. I think one of them's like George Washington or something when she takes it off, but you see it move, like it tilts its head. That's eerie. Then she gets jump scared stupidly, and neither of the two statues that she, untarps, if you will, are George Washington at all. I don't know what they are, some type of historical figures. They are not George Washington, so I don't know where that came from. And I like how she touches the one flaw of the mirror, the little hairline fracture, the crack that's on the bottom of it, which we find out later was from unintentionally having the father hit the mirror after Tim shoots him. And that gets us into all the rules of how this mirror works. We don't really know. It can cause really, really vivid hallucinations, make you do things and not know you're doing them. Like when they move all the cameras to different positions and they look back at the footage, they see themselves doing that and say, I don't remember doing that. Which, why would you even try doing any of this if you know that the mirror is capable of doing all of this shit to mess with your mind? I don't know. I mean, you wouldn't have a movie, that's why. So the only way you can hurt the mirror is by unintentionally hurting it, or where the mirror doesn't know it's threatened or about to be hurt or broken, because we see them later on taking bats to it. They're both hitting the walls on either side of the mirror, so they can't even land a hit. The mirror knows that it's trying to be destroyed, so it prevents whoever is trying to destroy it from doing so. We see that in the scene coming up when Kaylie starts setting everything up in the room. The cameras. She has plants everywhere to see if they die. She has the temperature monitored. I mean, a whole fucking science lab going on in this bitch. She has the dog, whose name is Dog, who thankfully Tim lets out later before the mirror gets to eat it. Why does it eat dogs? I have no idea. That's never explained, nor should it be. But getting back to the rules of the mirror, how would you destroy it then? And I always thought of a few different things. Plant a bomb in the house and leave. I mean, it could stop you from leaving, but it seems like also the more that you're around the mirror, and she mentions later, Kaylie, its sphere of influence, if you will. That's the second time I said if you will. I retract that last one. But if you will, that's what it's called. And she ends up hinting at the longer you're around the mirror and in that sphere of influence, it's hard to say, the more influence it has over you and the more it can control you and drive you nuts. So if you just pick the mirror up, put it in the house, left, drive a long distance away, and then just shoot a missile from a rocket launcher or something at it, and wouldn't that destroy it? Wouldn't that be the best way to get rid of this mirror? Something from afar, or just drop something on the house without the mirror knowing about it? The point is, there should be many, many ways to easily destroy this mirror that they don't think of, not a single one. But her kill switch idea is clever. I think it's every half hour or every hour? I think 30 minutes. That if they don't turn the dial and reset the kill switch, she has an anchor rigged to like a pulley and this whole mechanism that drops down and it'll destroy the mirror. She's not personally doing it. She's not flipping the switch. They would just let it happen. So that should, in theory, kill the mirror. It is a good idea, but it does ignore all the info she knows already about the mirror, that it can make them see and do anything. So why trust even that? Again, it doesn't matter. And I really love the dynamic between Kaylie and Tim. I really believe they are brother and sister. They act like it, the way they argue in this whole scene leading up to something actually happening when we see the plant start to die.
Our father was a cheater and it drove our mother crazy.
Stop it.
He snapped and he killed her. Was gonna do the same to us.
Oh, yeah. A bad marriage. That explains how Mom had no teeth, no hair, no mind left by the time she died.
Kaylie, you...
And yeah, a bad marriage. That explains those other people we both saw in the house that last night.
He was withdrawn, secretive, all signs of an affair.
I had access to all of Mom and Dad's stuff. While you were getting brainwashed, I looked, and not one credit card receipt, phone call, flower order, nothing to suggest an affair.
You're smart enough not to leave a trail.
She starts rubbing it in his face immediately. Ha! And starts going around and looking at all the plants. That's funny. There's some funny stuff in this movie. But during that whole prior scene is when she's recording herself giving all the history of the Lasser glass. And she's holding up all the crime scene photos of everyone that has ever had possession of this mirror. Either killed themselves or walked out into traffic or drowned in, I don't want to say their soup because that sounds like another movie, but drowned in something, all died in crazy ways after they inherited or bought this mirror.
The purpose of today's experiment is to prove that the object behind me, the Lasser glass, is home to an observable, predictable, supernatural force. There's no scientific equivalent for the word haunted, so we'll just say this object is responsible for at least 45 deaths in the 4 centuries of its recorded existence. The origin of the Lasser glass is unknown, so I can't provide a complete history, but the trail starts in London in 1754.
But I like how Tim starts fighting back, against her theories. I don't know how. He remembers what year his parents bought a fucking couch when they were kids. But regardless, he says they bought a couch in whatever year, and that same year, some kid in the neighborhood got in an accident, and somebody else died. So you don't blame the couch. And this is all stuff that he's been conditioned to think during his entire stay, his whole, childhood into his adulthood at the institution. So he doesn't know how to look at it from the same perspective that Kaylie does.
Look, Kaylie, we were just kids. We made up a scary story so we wouldn't have to accept the fact that our father was a murderer. He was. He was a sick man who tortured and killed our...
But then shit does start hitting the fan, and they notice that the plants are dead, and the temperature in the room has gone up a few degrees, and Tim is still trying to fight with his sanity, and this goes against, like I said, everything that he's been told and conditioned all of his life since he ended up there. So she ends up pointing out all these things that are
happening in here while we argue, the temperature in here has risen by 3 degrees. 3 degrees.
2 people in a small space, lights burning, electrical equipment, I don't know.
The phone lines are probably down by now. Why don't you check?
Okay, then. Let's have a look. Dial tone.
Static?
And then they see the video on the footage of them, rearranging the cameras and not remembering doing that at all.
I'm now reviewing the tape of the last few minutes.
He was having an affair. Sanctity was. It was a bad marriage. Look how it ended up.
All of that scene, the entire sequence of her giving the backstory leading up to the event starting to kick off, I love that entire sequence. I've mentioned a few times in the past on the channel regarding nails, anything to do with nails being ripped off or fucked with in any way that you can imagine or think of. That's one of the few things that'll get to me watching a horror movie. The scene when Alan, the father, is in his office and he's taking the Band-Aid off of his finger and he puts it on the desk and it instantly is back on his finger. Then he takes the staple remover and he starts fucking with his nail and it comes off. Oh, I can't. That's a really effective scene because it really grosses me out. Then we go back to the past and we see Marie, that's the mom's name, and Alan arguing in his office. And I love the line that he doesn't really speak. I guess he does, but it's the influence of the evil in the mirror. When she goes to leave and he says,
"Grotesque cow."
What did you just say to me?
I didn't say anything.
Can you imagine being a wife and seems like they had a good marriage before all the mirror shit and that came into play, and you walk out of a room and you hear your husband call you a grotesque pig or cow? It's cow. Terrible. And then we get to the dog thing, which I think I might have a theory for. Now we know it eats dogs. It also feeds on the plants. Their childhood dog, I forget the name, we'll get it. Maybe not. He ends up getting eaten by the mirror because Kaylie remembers a certain day that the mom locked the dog into Alan's office and she waited all day outside of the office. And then when they opened it up, when the dad got home, dog was gone. Barney? Why does Barney sound like it might be the name of the dog? Again, we'll find out. But something in me is screaming Barney. So we know it eats dogs. And then later on, we see the mom start acting like a rabid animal. Now, why does she act like an animal? Is it because, now this is weird, but the mirror eats the animal, the essence or the spirit of the animal, just like human beings, like we see all the beings or whatever you want to call them that are trapped in the mirror at the end of the movie? What if dogs also work the same way and she got possessed by the dog, Barney, and that's why she starts acting like a rabid dog? Never thought of that before, and I'm sure that's not the case, but you never know. Sounds right and airtight to me. All right, so I got the dog's name. I was close-ish. It's Mason. The dog's name is Mason, not Barney. And after Tim basically almost gets her to question everything that she's ever believed about that night, and that maybe she is wrong, and she doesn't remember how things really happened, and Tim's right, and she starts breaking down and asks, where can we go? And it is her fiance. He specifically says, let's go talk to your fiance. I don't know why I couldn't remember, but I knew it wasn't her husband. So half right. And Tim says, we can go anywhere. Let's just take these cameras down, disarm the anchor. Why the fuck would you do that? Just in case it is all true. Wouldn't you just keep that anchor up anyway and have the mirror get destroyed? I mean, what harm does that do? It can only help. And that's when Kaylie walks in and she sees all the cameras rearranged. And she gets to gloat for way too long, especially when, I get it, she's happy that she gets to finally prove to her brother, first of all, but also to the cameras and everything, that she is right. But I feel like it's something you shouldn't be that giddy over and celebrating. Yes, the evil mirror exists, and it's already manipulated us to do shit we don't remember. We should get out of here now, but instead we're going to stay here and gloat and celebrate about it.
Tim, if you're gonna make a phone call, you need to do it outside its radius of influence. Otherwise, there's no way of knowing who you're really talking to.
Radius of influence, and if you give me shit for that, I will kick fuck you. This movie works so well for me because I've said on several occasions in the past some of my biggest fears, and one of them is losing your mind and just losing touch with reality completely. This movie really plays on all of that. Imagine that you're in a house, in your old house, and you go outside to make a phone call, and it's so real and vivid. You really think, like, right here in reality, I get up, I go outside, I'm making a phone call. And next thing you know, you're inside and you never went outside. Do you know how warped your mind has to be by these external forces for you to really vividly believe that you were just in a different location than you really were? That's terrifying to me. So everything that happens to these characters in this movie, it really is some scary shit. If you put yourself in their shoes and you take this as something that, let's say, can actually really happen, and ghosts and demons and haunted mirrors and shit really exist, I would be terrified going through what they went through as kids, and probably even more so as adults. And yet she's rubbing it in her brother's face like her team just won the fucking World Cup. By the way, everybody chokes everyone in this movie. There is so much choking happening to the kids, like in the third act of this film. And this is when we really start to see the past and the present colliding. They're walking around the house, and both Tim and Kaylie are having their own hallucinations, which are like flashbacks back to their childhood. And things are happening at the same time in the past and the present, like the light bulb going out in the father's office. And at the same time, in the house in the present day, the light bulb goes out. And then Kaylie sees her dad walking up the stairs. And then we see young Kaylie, and she's looking up at her father walking up, and back to present day. This is so confusing, but it's so well done. And then this scene, what a great sequence with the light bulb. She goes and picks up the light bulb, and they're replacing them all over the house because they're getting burnt out by the mirror. So she goes to pick up an apple that was right next to the light bulb, and she takes a bite, and she's horrified. And she looks down at her hand, and the light bulb is in her hand instead of the apple. And she just took a bite out of this light bulb. And the way she sells the shock and terror that you would experience knowing you just bit into a light bulb, Karen Gillan does so good. But then it turns out just being a hallucination, and she's fine. And then she says what they should have said a long time ago to each other: we should stick together. There is a great, I don't even want to say blink and you'll miss it moment, because you won't even notice it unless it's pointed out to you. And I forgot where I heard or saw a video that pointed it out, and then I noticed it the next time, where Tim, little Tim, in the past, is watching cartoons, and then the TV starts getting staticky, and you see a brief, like I said, you gotta pause the movie to really see it, a brief image of Kaylie, her adult face from the future, on the television that little Tim is watching in the past. It's a great little detail. And like I said, once you know it's there, you can kind of see it, because you could see a quick flash of an image, but unless it's pointed out to you, most likely, I don't know many people picked up on that. And knowing what a huge fan of Lake Mungo Mike Flanagan is, I wouldn't be surprised if that's an homage to the infamous scene in Lake Mungo with the close-up on the face, because it looks just like that. If you freeze frame the movie and see the image of Kaylie's face, if it's even framed the same way as that scene in Lake Mungo. When young Kaylie hears the sounds from the mom's room, and she goes up to check on her mom, and she sees her mother, just like a rabid animal, possibly possessed by a dog, is eating the glass plate, which is another disturbing thing, man. I don't like that. Same reason that the light bulb scene is so effective. Who likes the thought of it? I don't like the thought of biting into glass in any way, because especially with a light bulb, if you were to bite into a light bulb and you swallowed glass like that, it would fuck your whole insides up. It's not a good thing to do. The third act here is what I was talking about at the very beginning of this video. Why I want to see Flanagan do an adaptation of It. All the stuff happening at the ending of this movie, the last half hour or so. You have Tim, little Tim, walking down the stairs as adult Kaylie is setting lights up because all the electricity got knocked out in the house, both in the past and in the present. And this opens up a bunch of questions, because you see little Tim look into his doorway and you see old Tim from present day. So back then, did little Tim on that, fateful night see his own self from the future? Is that what that's implying? Or is that just something that adult Tim, this is again so confusing, is that something that Tim in the present was hallucinating, seeing his past self? Or those were memories that he was living out in real time? Or did he really see his future self as a kid? There's so many questions like that and theories, and none of it's answered, and that's the way, I like it. There's been a lot. That's so dumb. But picture all the ending here. Take out all these characters. Well, there's two. Well, and the parents. And put in the losers as kids and as adults. And have the ending of It play out the exact way that Flanagan did it here. And tell me that wouldn't be a very, very climactic ending for an adaptation of It. I know we got 2 adaptations already. I want to see another one, though, and I want to see it done by this man. There's a lot of scenes in horror movies where one of the characters gets startled or the shit scared out of them in most cases, and they end up turning around and killing somebody they love and care about, and it's always a tragedy. The scene here when Kaylie is looking through her phone and she sees that there's no broken plate on the ground. All the pieces of the plate that broke. She sees it through her own eyes, but when she uses the phone, she can see it's an illusion, only to find out that the mirror is playing a double illusion on her. She gets scared by the ghost or whatever, decrepit looking version of her mom, and she stabs her in the neck with a piece of the broken plate, and it instantly turns into her fiance, and he collapses, he's dead. And just the way that she reacts, and she says to Tim, "Can you see him?" And he's like, "Oh my God," and he does. And she starts trying to rationalize it and try to explain it away as that it's an illusion.
That's a trick. I didn't kill him. I couldn't have. The plate, it wasn't real. I didn't kill him because the plate wasn't real.
And then she holds the phone up, and you still see his dead body there, and she starts breaking down. There's been so many scenes like this. I think this is one of the most effective and gut-punching out of all of those type of scenes that I've seen in movies. Her reaction gets me every single time. And everything in the ending. The mom running around like the animal that she is, and chasing after the kids, and choking the shit out of Kaylie. And then we see what happened that night, that Alan shoots and kills her. And she basically begs him to kill her and put her out of this supernatural induced misery. All of the ghosts or entities, whatever you want to call them, the ghost woman, Katie Siegel, she looks so creepy. And I really do like the mirror effects in the eyes of all the ghosts. And then Tim seeing his father, and he has the reflective eyes. Kaylie ends up seeing her fiance she just killed with the same eyes, and he's just creepily sitting there like on the stool in the room, and he's just looking at her. That's some eerie shit too. And then we see how Tim shot his father and killed him and ends up breaking the mirror. And in present day, Kaylie gets tricked into being hugged by her mother, and she ends up getting positioned right in front of the mirror, in front of the kill switch. Tim doesn't see her there. He's in his own world, and he ends up releasing the anchor, and it fucking impales Kaylie up against the mirror, and it is gut-wrenching. It is brutal. And the way he's screaming, Kaylie screaming at her, and she's gurgling blood and shit. The effects look great. The whole ending's great. And it's really depressing. The end of this movie, Kid Tim and Adult Tim being taken away, and they're both screaming, "It's not my fault. It wasn't me. It was the mirror."
It wasn't my fault! It was the mirror!
It wasn't me! It wasn't me! It was the mirror! It was the mirror!
Please, you have to believe me!
It was the mirror! It was the mirror!
Imagine that happening twice to you in your life as a kid, and then you didn't even want anything to do with this shit as an adult. Your sister dragged you into all of this. Now you're going to actual prison. Probably. I don't think he's going back to a mental institution after this. He might for the rest of his life, but I think he might just go to prison. But what an ending. That sucks. And the scene and that shot of all the ghosts and entities, whatever, are standing there and their mouths start stretching as the kill switch alarm is bang, bang, bang. I love that shot. That's probably my favorite shot of the film. But excellent directing, excellent story, excellent acting for the most part, excellent set. I really like the house here. One of the best examples and best films, at least in the horror genre, for going back and forth between two timelines and weaving the two of them together throughout the film. This is one of my favorites. Yeah, I can't say enough about this movie, obviously. I adore this movie. If you sat through all this for some reason, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. It's on Tubi. But that is Oculus from 2013, Mike Flanagan. I think this is one of the only Flanagan movies that I ever covered on here. This might be the first, actually. I'm pretty sure it is. That's a crime, right? That's not good. So we got to change that and do more Flanagan soon. But all right, guys, hope everyone has a good morning, afternoon, night, wherever you are. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.